Alright guys, today I'll be giving you my top 10 parks I've been to as of 2024. Now, I did make this video a lot later last year, and I made my top 25 coasters around this time last year, but I want to flip it around this year, and I'm going to come out with this video now. There are a bunch of amazing parks that just couldn't quite make the cut, but with that being said, let's get right into it. Coming in at number 10 is Six Flags Magic Mountain. In terms of quantity of coasters, this park is the best in the world. They got a phenomenal 1-2 punch with X2 and Twisted Colossus, with X2 sort of being the headliner as there's just nothing else like it over here in North America. Twisted Colossus is a solid RMC, and then the rest of the lineup's pretty good too, but there's nothing in my top 10 here. The atmosphere's not really all that good. The operations are pretty subpar. It's a very good park due to how many coasters they have and how many decent ones they have, but overall, it's definitely not the best Six Flags park in my opinion. Coming in at number 9 is Busch Gardens Tampa. This park is definitely a bit of a mixed bag for me. On one hand, they definitely have some of the worst operations, and their ride lineup is pretty good outside of the top coaster here, but it's nothing too special. But there are two reasons why it's so high. One of them being the theming. I just love the African theming. It's very well executed and immersive, but obviously the only reason it's this high is Iron Gwazi. This is a top 5 coaster for me right now, and it is truly one of the best coasters in the world. It is an absolute masterpiece. It is one of the most aggressive coasters of all time. Unfortunately, the operations hold Busch Gardens Tampa back from being a higher spot on this list, but it's still a really good park that you definitely have to get out to. Coming in at number 8 is King's Dominion, and no, Kings Island will not be on this list, so yes, I do think King's Dominion is better than Kings Island, and that's mainly for the top 2. The top 2 here destroys anything at Kings Island with Twisted Timbers and Panthurian. Panthurian is obviously one of the greatest coasters of all time. It's definitely up there as one of the most intense coasters in the world for positives and laterals, and it has some underrated airtime. Twisted Timbers is all about airtime. It's definitely a mid-RMC, but that being said, a mid-RMC is still top 25 worthy, and the rest of the lineup's okay. Nothing too special here, and I think the atmosphere is actually a lot better than most people give it credit for. Jungle X is a pretty cool area. I also really like Candy Apple Grove, and that area right under the Eiffel Tower. There's a lot of cool looking areas, so overall, King's Dominion is definitely one of the more underrated parks on this list. Coming in at number 7 is a park I wanted to put higher, but I just thought about the ride lineup and I couldn't. It's Dollywood. It is one of the best themed parks ever, if not the best themed that I've been to at least. It's just amazing looking all over the place, especially in Wildwood Grove. You really feel like you're in this total fantasy land. Not the actual fantasy land, a lot better than the actual fantasy land. But unfortunately, the ride lineup isn't the strongest. Lightning Rod's the headliner. And while it's a great ride, it's definitely not one of the best coasters in the world. I don't think it's top 25 in the world anymore. Big Bear's the second best here. And while it is absolutely an underrated gem, it is not necessarily the most extreme thing in the world. And they don't really have too many other amazing rides. And unfortunately, Lightning Rod's not quite good enough to carry Dollywood up to a higher spot. But I could absolutely respect if Dollywood was a few spots higher for other people. Coming in at number 6 is Universal's Islands of Adventure. This is a very strange park and a very tough one to rank because yes, it's extremely crowded. You're going to be waiting for everything here. And the overcrowding can be pretty annoying and sort of take you out of the immersion. However, it's got some of the best theming in the world. Hogsmeade is amazing. Jurassic Park is one of the best areas ever. I think Marvel Superhero Island is pretty underrated. And all the rides here are themed spectacularly. And of course, they have some phenomenal headliners with Velocicoaster obviously being the star. Definitely a top 10 coaster. And then they've got Hulk, which is one of the most intense B&Ms ever. Hagrid's is pretty overrated in my opinion, but it's still a fun ride, still top 100 worthy. And then you've got two of the best dark rides I've ever experienced, maybe the two best, with Spider-Man and Forbidden Journey. This is truly one of the best parks in the world, and I could respect this being way higher if you are into theming, but like I said before, I really prioritize those extreme coasters, especially the top tier ones, and unfortunately, I don't think Velocicoaster's quite good enough to carry it up a couple spots higher in this list. Coming in at number 5 is Knoebels. Now, I really struggled between Knoebels, Islands, and Dollywood, but I ended up putting Knoebels on top because of the laid-back atmosphere. Yes, Dollywood and Islands have the best theming of any park I've been to, but there's something special about Knoebels' atmosphere. It's really like nothing else. It's a resort. It's a camping resort. You're out in the woods. Everyone is so friendly. You can really just get lost in this place, and it's really fun just coming before the park opens and wandering around exploring everything, because this park is free to enter, and that's also part of why it's so good. If you're coming back from Hershey or something and you want to pop in for an hour or two, just get a few rides in, you can do that here with the ticket system, which I absolutely love, that you don't have to really spend a full day here if you're on a time crunch. This park also has the best operations I've ever seen. Yes, over Disney and Universal. The Phoenix and Twister crew in particular are electric. They are pumping out those trains mind-blowingly fast. Every crew should strive to be like Phoenix and Twister's crew. And the rides are amazing here too. Phoenix is one of the most underrated coasters ever. It is an easy top 10 coaster. It's better than rides like Maverick and Lightning Rod for me. It's just terrifying. That's the best way to describe it. And then Twister's also a great ride. Impulse, he got some good ones here. Alright, this is not just a family resort. It's got some really solid coasters, especially Phoenix, which really carries it up here. This park also has a phenomenal flat ride lineup with rides like Rocco Planes and Flyers, which I absolutely love, especially Flyers now that they don't exist at Seabreeze. So overall, Knoebels is an absolute must visit if you're a coaster enthusiast. Coming in at number 4 is Six Flags Great Adventure. This park is obviously the center of the coaster universe right now due to the removal of a ton of rides, including King Ka, which was the second best ride here. It was definitely better than Dragster for me. It was a top 25 worthy coaster, but unfortunately they had to get rid of it for some unknown reason, probably cost, and hopefully they're replacing it with that Mach 400-foot Extreme Spinner. I know a lot of you guys don't like that concept, but I personally love it. We'll see. Maybe it's a Mach reimagining somehow, custom Mach multi-launch, I don't know. But we'll definitely get clues in the future, but that's not what we're talking about. King Ka itself was a great ride, but obviously the reason you go to Six Flags Great Adventure is El Toro, one of the most ridiculous coasters ever. It's inconsistent, yes, both in terms of how it runs and the layout itself, but my god, those star moments of the ride are some of the greatest moments ever. Jersey Devil and Nitro are also great. They've got a lot of other great supporting rides, and while the atmosphere might not seem like the best, the ride ops are phenomenal. Honestly, almost on par with Cedar Point ops, and they're so great. They definitely bring a certain atmosphere to this park that I really don't get at any other park. It's weird. It definitely feels like a laid-back atmosphere, but with these huge rides. It's bizarre, but I absolutely love it. Coming in at number 3 is Hershey Park. Of course, the big two here is Wildcats Revenge and Sky Rush. If you want pure ejector airtime, this park is phenomenal because of those two rides. And outside of those, it's got a really solid collection with Storm Runner, Candemonium, Comet, Fahrenheit, a bunch of supporters that are really solid. However, I will say the operations have not been great this year. The atmosphere of this park is pretty cool, I will give it credit, especially in the Hollow. It's very cool seeing all the trees and seeing how Great Bear and all these coasters interact with each other. But some sections, the boardwalk in particular, looks kinda stupid in my opinion. It's still one of the greatest ride lineups ever, which is why it's this high, including Wildcats Revenge, which is a top 5 coaster, but there are definitely two parks that are better in my opinion. So coming in at number 2 is the one that seems like it should be the obvious choice for number 1, which is Cedar Point. And yes, this objectively is the best park in the world. This is easily the most stacked coaster lineup in the world, and it's going to get even more ridiculous next year with Top Thrill 2 and Siren's Curse, which maybe it'll push it over the edge to number 1, but I don't know, it's going to be tough. But anyways, Magnum is the headliner for me personally. I know that's weird, but Magnum's my number 2 overall. It's got some of the most ridiculous airtime ever. It's definitely got an argument for being the most insane airtime ever, but I'd give that to another coaster. It's just a downright terrifying experience. Maverick is incredible. Steel Vengeance, while I think it's overrated, is still a top 15 coaster at the end of the day. You got some other fantastic rides like Gemini, Millennium Force, so many phenomenal coasters in here. And I honestly think this has the best atmosphere of any park in the world, which sounds weird given parks like Knoebels and Dollywood, Islands of Adventure. But there's something special about just seeing all these massive coasters. And I know parks like Great Adventure, Magic Mountain, Hershey, they have all these coasters stacked on top of each other. But it's not the same as having this many massive coasters surrounding you on this massive peninsula. And the theming itself is pretty good in here too. Frontier Town is a really sick looking area. I think the new area by TT2 is really cool looking. And of course the boardwalk is really nice as well. And there's just nothing like walking under gatekeepers' keyholes to get into the park. So what can be better than the most magical sounding place on earth for coaster nerds? It is, of course, Fun Spot Atlanta. And if you know me, this should have been obvious. If you don't know me, you probably think this is a joke, but it's not. My two biggest priorities in a park are 1, an ultra elite headlining coaster, and 2, the ability to marathon that ultra elite headlining coaster. And Airy Force One is by far the greatest coaster of all time. It is not even close. Rides like Magnum, Panthurian, they can't even hold a candle to what Airy Force One can do. And the fact that you can just sit on it, get 10 plus rides in a single hour on this thing, automatically makes Fun Spot Atlanta the best park in the world. I don't care that they don't have anything else. They don't need anything else because they've got Airy Force One with no wait. You can just sit on the greatest coaster of all time with no wait, which is why Fun Spot Atlanta is the best park in the world. So let me know what you guys thought of this ranking down in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.